Welcome everybody. Energy Tonight, episode 5. I'm Max Rice. That's Ryan Dickey. Hey
What's up,
Ryan.
guys?
It's been a lot have happened since our last episode. The pandemic has continued. There's been a couple commodities to crash. There's been a crazy weather event. There's been political fights. Where do we start, Ryan?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, a lot has happened to say the least. I think 2020 has just been a chaotic year. Every day is something new. So we're taking things day by day, rolling with the punches. We're going to do our best to give you everything we can and summarize things for you here today. But let's start with natural gas. Our perspective on natural gas is it gives us a good understanding of the power and gas industry. So really the only consistent piece of the gas market these past few months has been volatility. We know that volatility is going to continue, and that's about all we can be certain of right now. Last Friday we see natural gas on the front month closing at $1.65. But as we speak, let me check.
It's $1.79.
$1.79. And before we got on the call, it was $1.85. So the swings are ridiculous. Analysts are just very overreactive, which I understand because we are in the midst of a pandemic. So just looking at the trailing 90 days, 90 days ago, gas was trading at $1.89. 60 days ago at $1.63. 30 days ago at $1.84. And again, we're at 179 as we speak. So you can see that up and down. Gas has been touching, right around that $1.60 mark, and it's showing resistance at $1.90. So you can, if you pay attention to what we've seen in the last few months, you're going to see it bounce up and down pretty consistently between $1.60 and $1.90. Now we did break out of that and nearly touched 220 in early May. And that was as a result of some very extreme cold weather that we saw that we'll touch on a little bit later. The word polar vortex was even thrown out there, one I haven't heard since 2014. So interesting stuff going on in the gas market. Like I said, volatility is the only consistent piece we're seeing right now. Interesting stat, EIA released this. Total production hit a year-to-date low of 85.5 BCF injected. That's interesting. Year-to-date low. Demand is showing a moderate increase, and businesses are opening back up as these restrictions are getting lifted. But we still, are injecting less gas week over week, and again, we're at a year-to-date low. So a lot to consider there. Let me give you guys some bearish factors that are playing into, potential downward movement of the market. And just to be transparent with you, I'm bullish on the gas market right now, both in the short term and long term. I'll dive into that later. But
We are conflicted though. We gotta point that out. We're both
I am conflicted. Yeah,
we both are. Yeah.
I'm confident enough to make a bet on it through an investment, which we'll talk about later on as well. But still, I find myself waking up in the night seeing what gas is trading at. So
Absolutely.
I'm conflicted here for sure. But some of the bearish factors right now are healthy storage levels. Sure, we're at a year-to-date low, but storage is really healthy, which is why prices are low. We're not worried about much of a supply and demand issue right now. So as long as storage levels remain healthy and there's no question marks there, every Thursday at 10:30, we get the Henry Hub storage report. As long as there's no question marks there, I think the gas market can keep moving down. But in my opinion, we're going to have some jumps in demand here soon, which is going to cause some issues with storage. Other bearish factors are just the demand impacts of the coronavirus. Lower demand across the board with businesses, not being able to open up, or businesses that are hesitant to open up and resume full operations. Even businesses that had to cut part of their operations that used to run a night shift that don't anymore. That has an impact on demand. And lower demand is bringing the market down. Also, warmer temperatures will have a bearish impact on the market as well. Looking at what could drive the market up, our bullish factors here is the continual decline in production. We're seeing rigs drop off left and right. And eventually that's going to have an impact on storage. So like I said, if storage levels are looking off, we're going to see a bullish trend take over. But I think, as global economy begins to open back up, we're going to see an eventual growth in exports, which is, important because at one point, I don't quote me on this currently, but in our last podcast, I could say with confidence that the U.S. was the number one exporter of natural gas. A lot has changed in these past few months, but still we're one of the leaders when it comes to natural gas. And as soon as we can start exporting more, we're going to see storage change, demand go up, and that should have a bullish impact on the market. And then lastly, which will tie into the second half of our podcast today, where we talk a little bit about investment opportunities within the energy world. But managed money products could have a bullish impact on the market, especially investing firms seeing opportunities in the gas market whenever historic lows come about. You're going to catch the eye of folks who are making heavy investments. So we've already seen managed money products enter the commodities world, and it's having a bullish impact on prices. So ultimately, the coronavirus is still center stage. It's causing the volatility ultimately, and the uncertainty that surrounds it is what's causing us to be conflicted right now in the market. So not only are Max and I conflicted, you can clearly see that analysts are as well, and that's going to continue until things are back to normal.
Yeah, as you said, Ryan, like you don't really hear about polar vortexes in May, and also take it with a grain of salt. But the National Weather Service does predict that it's gonna be this month is gonna be warmer nearly everywhere in the United States, and they predict that it'll be a short term. It'll be colder in Texas and average in like northern Florida, but they are predicting warmer weather this month. And then, totally swept on the rug, just not in the news at all because it's just been so crazy, is we had a polar vortex in a lot of, like, especially East Coast in May. They talk about, like, May showers. What do they say about May snow? Like,
There's no expression.
It's a literal stat that the state of New York had more snow in May than in February. And you had record cold temperatures.
Hold on. You said more snow in May than in February in New York City?
May, springtime.
Wow.
May is right. Isn't May springtime or my?
It is.
I think.
It's not winter.
it's not. Yeah. So take that as it will be. That is not normal. And but totally swept on the rug because of all this craziness, and didn't really have too much an effect on the market.
Yep. So if you've been in the energy world for a little while, you remember the polar vortex of 2014. A lot of companies didn't survive that. Really had a huge impact on our market. So when someone like myself sees the words polar vortex popping up, especially in May, that's a red flag, and that's alarming. So I think something that we can bank on is that weather is going to continue to be extremely unpredictable.
Yeah. But I do think there is a new normal on the other side with storage, which you were touching on, and we are fortunate that we were the biggest exporter of natural gas, and we're more ready to handle extreme events, even in May. And so that's the weather. I think I do want to dive deep into, because I made two horrible stock picks. We both made two horrible stock picks that like I should get some sort of award for, like losing 30% twice after two trades. Like, give me a medal. Yeah.
And I'm not ready to say that my picks were bad picks because I had a long-term mindset going into them. I knew, I wasn't necessarily buying at the basement, and, clearly I wasn't. But I'm not ready to say that any investment in the energy industry right now is a bad one. Sure, in the short term, you might suffer a bit because of, volatility and uncertainty. But when things go back to normal, we're really going to, in my opinion, we're going to see oil, gas start to normalize again, which is going to be good for anybody who's got confidence and can invest in those funds. But what funds were you referring to that have hurt you a little bit?
That's why I say disclosure, because one of my goals in life is never to go to jail. So everything we're saying, like, we invest in the market, don't grain of salt, research, everything.
Yes. We're not telling you how to invest. We're not investment professionals in any way.
Absolutely.
We trade on our own. We're not telling you what to do, and we don't want to hear from you if you have bad success in the market like we do. So
absolutely. So this is just what happened. I I invested in USO the last second before the reverse split.
United States Oil Fund, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
so 3 p.m. and then the next day a reverse split is kind of like a desperation move to like reconfigure the stocks, and so I lost 30% because what
Was it
happened.
a 1-to-8 split?
Well, I think it might have even been worse than that, but yeah, maybe
1-to-10 maybe?
Yeah,
To where if you had 10 shares, you now have one and it's worth 10 times more, so they made a big adjustment to, save the fund. Anyways, continue.
yeah, and we didn't even touch on this. If you probably were aware, hearing about how oil went negative in the month of June, and one common misconception is it didn't really go. It went negative for the month. It wasn't. If you looked at the next month, it was back to $20 or whatever. So that was a misconception, but it totally took out this fund because they owned a lot of June oil contracts and they had to honor them, where they had to pay out negative $20 or whatever it was. Right? Didn't it go from like a penny to negative 20?
Yep. At one point, it dropped that low, and
Yeah. And so it just totally took out this fund. And now they're back. They're rising, but I'm out of it. I think you're still on it, right, Ryan?
I bought in a couple weeks before the reverse split happened, and I knew that it was happening on a Tuesday, I believe. And on that Monday, I looked at the fund and I decided to sell out. Just typically because, in my experience, any fund that's doing a reverse split is in some trouble. It's kind of a desperation move. And, sure, it is an actively managed fund and there are going to be moves, but something as substantial as a reverse split would typically scare me away, and it did. But it ended up being a good move for the fund so far as, they're growing. So USO may be something to look into. I think if you have a long-term – if you believe that oil is going to be, an important part of our economy for the next 10 years, then I would say oil is a great investment right now. But what are your thoughts on that, Max?
Yeah, I just realized I actually invested like right before they announced the reverse split, not before the reverse split.
Okay,
and
gotcha.
that hype tanked it down.
Yeah.
I agree, but I think the specifics of the ETF were kind of scary, like some of the best that USO made.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just kind of cut my losses where I wasn't just like for me, there are a bunch of stocks I am in long term and I want to be just really confident. And the next one, I lost 30%, but I knew it was going to be a long term play going in, so I'm not as upset. And that's actually the natural gas sector, and it was UGAZ, UGAZ.
Yep.
And it's a velocity ETF, which is, if you want to go into, Ryan.
Yeah, and this is a fund I'm really excited about and I'm very optimistic about. But again, research it on your own, decide on your own if you want to invest in it. I chose to on my own, and here's why. But just to give you a little bit of understanding of what UGAZ is, it's a velocity shares fund. So if you're familiar with that firm, it's a little bit different than other exchange traded funds that you might see, on the exchange. It's an aggressive fund and it's volatile, which I like because I'm a gambling man, to be honest, and I tend to do that in the market. And as one who studies the natural gas market on a daily basis, obsessively, it makes sense for me to make some investments within it. So what this UGAZ fund does, and again the ticker is UGAZ, it mirrors the ups and downs of the gas market. So if typically it's going to take that and multiply that movement by 3 times. It's not always going to be exact. If we see natural gas up 3%, you should probably see UGAZ up about 9%, right? So it's more aggressive and it's going to be multiplying the movements of the fund. But at the same time, when the gas market's down 3%, you're going to see your fund down 9%. So it can be a painful one to hold. Typically, investors are buying this and selling this within 48 hours. It's a quick turnaround. To me, that's not my investment strategy on anything. I've tried that, and I'm not a professional, and the professionals aren't even that good at it. So it's just too unpredictable of a market. If you're looking at the stock market right now, you're probably wondering, 36 million people unemployed, but we're just soaring up week over week. Doesn't seem to make much sense. It doesn't really make much sense, and the market doesn't. And that's why everybody's looking for the crystal ball. So if you can use logic and separate yourself from the excitement of a quick volatile turnaround, I think it's potentially a great long-term investment. Just looking at the history of the fund, when natural gas reaches higher levels, you're seeing this fund go from $20 to $30 a share up to $200 to $400 per share, and that's not unrealistic. And with all the chaos we're seeing in natural gas, I think the likelihood is clearly to the upside. I don't think gas producers want to throw away gas. I don't see any opportunity for gas going to $0 in the near future unless we find another way to safely produce energy that's going to replace natural gas. And that's just not happening in the near future. So I know there's a lot of crazy things going on, but I think I can bet that we're going to use natural gas for a little while.
I have a lot of smart friends that think natural gas vehicles will overtake electric vehicles, even though I'm an electric vehicle fan. And people forget that natural gas isn't just a fuel. It's like the number 2 source of plastic, I think. And it's in so many things that just they're not going away.
Yeah,
even
exactly.
as transition and innovate and find other forms of energy.
Yep. So if you can agree that natural gas is going to be used in the long term, then maybe this is a good fund for you. You need to look at who's managing the fund and if you trust them to continue to successfully manage the fund, because it is set up to do 3 times the movements of the gas market, but that's not a guarantee. So that's another thing to keep in mind. But
And by the way, everyone, that's a very important point. That's why it's kind of a risky in general. It's like high risk, high penalty, high reward, is because no matter where the gas, your stock you're gonna feel triple the pain or triple the reward.
Yep. And so if you're someone who says, hey, when it gets too hot, I get out of the kitchen, if that's you, that's okay. There's another fund that's more conservative that I'm also invested in on a long-term investment. This is a few decades. I'll hold this for sure if I can get my hands to be strong enough and not get too eager. But a good fund to check out and to do your own research on is UNG. It's a natural gas fund, and it just follows the ups and downs of the gas market, but it doesn't multiply them. It's a lot less volatile. So if you see gas up 1.5%, you're going to see that fund up about 1 to 2% as well. It's going to be right there. So right now that's $11.75 a share. And if you look at where that fund was, last December, which was December of 18, when we saw gas prices spike a good bit, that fund was trading for $38 a share, so if you see potential for gas shooting up again, which seems extremely probable if you look at the history, then you should be able to, make a nice return on this fund.
Absolutely. And Ryan, I've been talking about ETFs, which are like general investments in the market. If you're looking at a specific company, I want to give a shout out to EQT, the original Rices of energy, who when I sold out, so I will probably buy back in. But when I bought in earlier this year, they were at $6. Now they're at $13 because a couple of Rices came in, not my cousins. They took over EQT, and they've done an amazing job.
Yes.
Keeping the jobs and keeping America energy independent. So shout out to the Rices.
Yeah, shout out to the Rices at EQT.
Yeah.
We know you're watching.
Absolutely. But no, yeah. So I guess those are our stock picks. Politically, they're trying to do a phase 4 of the Corona bailout package, and the House approved. The big news is the House approved a bailout package for phase 4. But the key thing for people to realize is that we have a split legislature, and the House is Democratic, and the Senate's Republican, and the executive's Republican. And so I'm not confident this bill is going to pass. So there's a lot in there. I haven't read it because I don't think what we see is going to be the final thing. And so it's very important to keep an eye on a Senate and see what is in and what is out of the bill. Because right now it seems like they are aiming to get some money in there for alternative energy.
Yeah, and I haven't read the bill myself, but I do know that it covers a lot more than just the response to coronavirus. There's No,
This is
I guess
this
that
is
is
the
the
bigger
focal point.
sequel.
Yeah,
That's a good way to put it. This is like, when like a sequel to a movie, like
yeah,
just like more of everything.
yeah,
That's what this is in the current form. There is a lot of money for a lot of not corona related fields, including energy.
yeah.
But we'll see at the finish line because there's just so many steps that need to
Agreed.
happen in between.
Yeah, and I mean, basically the way I see this is, for quite some time, energy has needed to be a pretty important national conversation, and it's kind of been put on the back burner. But now we're faced with this coronavirus, and we're like, okay, we need to change this about energy. We need to change this here. You
We were
see
this,
what?
we were this close too. Like I think we were talking about in episode 2, like Joe Manchin and Lisa Murkowski, Republican Democrat, came together for like their own version of a Green New Deal. That was like I think it was like 50 separate bills like put like together and just like
Yep,
everything imaginable, natural gas, solar, nuclear, everything, and they
yep,
really were starting to come together and debate on it. And this they like hit like one snafu and then pandemic.
exactly.
So it is a shame.
Yeah.
Just
So
like
we'll
how
see what happens. I mean, the president did say that it would be dead on arrival in Senate, but we'll see what happens. I think. Do you
absolutely.
know when when Senate gives a response? Do we know when that is? I'm not. Do you know the timeline?
I think they're supposed to Friday. Something's
Okay,
supposed to happen. They're supposed to vote
gotcha.
on something. But
Stay
it hasn't
tuned for
said. The
that.
president said dead on arrival. So that's why I haven't wasted too much. I mean, I'm following it, but you gotta.
Yeah. And the president did say dead on arrival. And in other news, one of the more exciting pieces of yesterday was Nancy Pelosi called Trump morbidly obese.
Oh yeah.
So just a funny piece of news if you didn't see that. And that's what we've got going on in Washington.
No, it's fun. Funny. No, I like it. Like that's what I've been. Everyone is like upset and like, and especially in such a horrible time. Like I kind of that's what I wish Washington had for years. That we actually had the backyard insults and then calling and twitting.
I'm
Like
not sure how I feel about it.
really, you missed the days when they were like robots and like, oh man, I wish she was more political. You mean like
Oh no,
sloppy
I'm
and
glad there's some
lying?
personality, but
Even Pelosi, like let her bring it out. She should have called him more. She should have called him
yeah,
a fat A word or something.
yeah. I don't know. I guess I just stopped name calling a long time ago, and I
That's
think you did too.
yeah, I guess. Did Trump hit her back? What did Trump say? Or
He responded to it because they in the hearing yesterday they asked him, Nancy Pelosi called you morbidly obese, and I think he said it. Oh, I don't talk about her. She's not worth my time or something like that.
clearly she is, but
Yeah,
Speaker of the House. Oh yeah, when she
yeah.
lived.
It kind of has to be worth your time, but
I know. Got to work together. No, I
yeah.
mean, I honestly, a lot of it does seem theater, and they do work together. Like we still have a government, luckily.
Right. Yeah, we do have that. So, any closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts. I want to do like a full review, but like homework for people wishing is Michael Moore produced, Jeff Gibbs directed a new movie on energy called Planet of the Humans. That is
What's it
causing
called again?
Planet of the Humans. That's causing a lot of controversy.
Oh,
That
yep.
I want you guys. And did you check it out, Ryan?
I haven't watched it yet,
You will
but
have
you,
a
you told me
blast.
about it a couple weeks ago. It's on my list.
Absolutely. And like Michael Moore in general, I've always like, even though I disagree with him politically, I've always liked him because he's more of a comedian entertainer. And so there's been a lot of criticism. I think a lot of it comes from people that he exposed. They're just like obviously upset.
Oh,
But
of course.
and so I keep in mind that a lot of it is for comedic and entertaining effect. And I would say it's not inaccurate, but it's like it's showing the extreme. It isn't showing the
Right.
full picture. But it is a very scathing takedown of alleged environmentalists. And there's a couple news stories that we can cover too after that came out after the documentary that kind of proves its point.
Okay.
That's my
You
final
said it's
thought.
Planet of the Humans?
Planet of the Humans.
Okay.
What are your final thoughts, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching that. As far as final thoughts, let's just hope for a big bullish run in the gas market. You may be saying, Ryan, you're an energy consultant. Why are you hoping, natural gas goes up? Well, I think it's the rally that the gas market needs. Sure, it might bring some increased costs for consumers in the short term. But we need to add some strength to natural gas. If we are going to be the number one exporter in the world, we need to add some strength to it. And I think other countries, other competitive countries, do feel threatened by our energy independence. And I think as an American, we need to take pride in that, and we need to fight for our energy. So I'm not here to give a speech, but I do have some thoughts that on a comment made by an energy company in China last week, who predicted that natural gas. See, I can't say this without laughing because it's hysterical.
No, you have beef.
You know?
Ryan has beef. You might not make it to the next episode.
Yeah, I'm frustrated.
I get you with the poison dart.
Yeah, so if you're an expert in the energy world, your opinion matters, and you should use logic before you share it. Coming out in your shareholders meeting, which is public, and saying that you see potential for natural gas to go below $0 in America, just like it did, with oil, is completely outlandish, and it's not a statement that you can back up in any way, with any kind of logic or reason, which is why they didn't. It was just a general statement that was slid in at the beginning of the presentation when the most people were listening, and it had a drastic impact on the natural gas market because, of course, many traders listen to the opinion of a very large energy company in China. They use much more energy than we do here in the U.S. So their opinion does matter. I just wish that there was some more accuracy to the claims. So speech over, rant over, but just keep in mind that, take every piece of information with a grain of salt, regardless of who it comes from.
Wait,
Because
China made inaccurate claims? I'm having trouble.
No, it's hard to believe.
No,
it's hard to believe.
I can't. Yeah, but that is a very important point you make. So even us, China, doesn't matter. People, some of you trust, some of you don't trust. Be critical. And to your point too, short-term price increases leads to stability in the market. And so there's no such thing as a free ride in life at all. So you can get that negative gas for a month and just wait till 3 months later.
Exactly. Right. And work with somebody like myself or Max, call Energy CX.
Absolutely. We'll fight for you. Well, call me after you get taken out, Ryan.
Yeah, right. I know.
You're a wanted man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to comment on that more.
But
if I disappeared,
yeah.
I had no plan to disappear.
Yeah, absolutely. You know nothing about Hillary Clinton either.
No. Who is that?
Yeah, exactly. No, but thank you so much. Energy Tonight, episode 5. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
There'll be a lot more to discuss. Thank you. Have a good one. Thanks, Ryan.